Been a wonderful evening. It's been such an exciting evening, such exciting conversations, and we're going to take this to the next level with this last panel discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. Again, I'm going to refer to you as a league of extraordinary gentlemen who've taken time out to be with us. I'm going to begin with a man who's been extraordinary for so long. When we look at things like Hollywood, who goes out from India and makes Hollywood movies and wins Oscars? We didn't know we could do that in the first place. There was an Indian sitting over here who did it a long time ago, and we have people, multiple, they go and just win Grammy Awards every year and come back, also over here. I'm going to begin with the man who took India outside of India and made that name about Indian talent. Mr. Shekhar Kapoor, you're seeing what's happening. You're seeing Natu Natu being performed on Oscar stage. You've been on part of multiple Oscars ceremonies. Tell us, when you look at that, we're calling this Beyond Bollywood for a reason. You're looking at films not made in the Hindi language in India, doing what they're doing. What does Shekhar Kapoor think when he looks at all of these things?
Can I say something about the previous session on Nari Shakti?
Please go ahead.
I don't know how many of us know that 65% of the agricultural labor force in India are women. And that they come to the fields, they work all day, they go home, they look after the babies, they look after their homes, they cook for them, they send their kids to school if they at all go to school, they come back. Without them, we'd all starve. So how can you not worship women in this country? We would starve without them. So let's get back to
Wonderful
Bollywood.
message, sir. Wonderful message, sir. Absolutely. That's the reason why we spend so much time on Nari Shakti here at the inaugural of what India thinks today, a summit. For a reason we had that. We had such exemplary women on stage. So thank you for putting out that message. Just to take the conversation forward, women are our soft power, superpower, and so is our movies, our music. We make so many movies, such great movies in so many different languages. We make music, classical music, folk music, music Ricky Cage makes, which usually people from America make, and that, we Indians are winning awards for. But, talking about a true global Indian, taking India outside, and now when you've already taken India outside with your great talent, but I really want to come back to that.
Who here knows what is the one Indian film that is the biggest hit internationally so far? Biggest international hit, Indian film. Adjusted for box office and inflation, the biggest hit to date is Avara. If you adjusted it today, Raj Kapoor's Avara has been the biggest Indian hit ever. So this is not a new phenomenon. There was a time when I first went overseas that people from all over Eastern Europe, I went in to repair my watch in Los Angeles, and the guy sat there and looked at me and said, "You're from India?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Avara ho." I went to Russia, and they especially said, "Oh, you're Kapoor, Raj Kapoor, Raj Kapoor." I was given a suite at the hotel, and I hadn't got the guts to say, "I'm not related to Raj Kapoor." So Indian films, actually we lost out because Hollywood came and they had the marketing muscle. And with this huge marketing muscle, they edged us out because at that time, India was going through a foreign exchange problem. We didn't. Now we are back. Now we are back with such a bang. And I promise you, and then you can take the discussion here, because, can I say this?
Please go ahead.
You know what our Prime Minister says is $5 trillion economy? I promise you here, with the new technology of AI, we will deliver an extra $1 trillion with Indian content. And I've not picked out this figure. I work with technology all the time. AI is going to make, because there are more teenagers in India than anywhere else in the world. There are more young people. And the new filmmakers that will go out and conquer Hollywood, you know where they are right now? They're in the slums of Dharavi sitting, trying to learn animation. And they will go on with this new technology called Sora. They'll come out, they're making 1-minute films. When they'll make half-an-hour films, and you'll find this little kid from Dharavi suddenly getting an Oscar because they have the hunger. We have the hunger. We want to go out and conquer the world. For too long we've been dominated. Too long, as our Prime Minister says, we are finally giving up the colonial mindset. We're finally giving up the fact that we were ruled by white people once. We're finally giving that up. And these kids, I've seen them, they are going to conquer us. And new technology, AI, is going to give us an extra $1 trillion a year in our economy.
What a word. From the man who taught the world from India how to make a film on Elizabeth. Let's hold that thought for a moment. A guy from India taught the world how to tell the story of Elizabeth. I'm going to come to the Grammy winners in just a bit, since Mr. Shekhar Kapoor spoke such important things about Hollywood and their marketing might, which is the reason why we weren't there. I'm going to take this conversation to Mr. Christopher Ripley and then bring it back to Mr. Selva Ganesh and Ricky Cage. Mr. Ripley, what can we learn as India, lessons from that marketing might of Hollywood? Because we're seeing Korean art and culture doing the same thing. You know, it's India's turn, isn't it? Indian content's turn, isn't it? After Hollywood and Korean art and cinema.
Well, first, there's been a lot of talk about soft power. And I think of soft power sort of like being cool. And the surest way to be uncool is to try really hard to be cool. And so soft power is very similar to that. It can only be a byproduct. It cannot be the main objective. The main objective is great content, great culture, great production value, being the best in your genre. Those are the lessons from Hollywood that India, I think, is on the cusp of nailing a bunch of those categories. When you do that, you get soft power.
All right, great content, great culture, great production. Fair point, I would say. Talking about culture, to the Grammy men on the stage, India, I mean, look at the music that India has. And often, for the longest time, it's always been movie songs, Bollywood songs, is the only export. Now that's changed. Now that's changing. We have people like Ricky Cage going every day, Grammys again this year. Another award this year. That's how it's seeming like. So, Ricky, what has changed in the way the world is perceiving Indian music? Because as in India, we have Carnatic music, Hindustani music, Dhrupad in classical forms, and then a plethora of folk music, from Rajasthani to Tamil folk to, you know, all kinds of folk music in Eastern India, Bengal, you know, Bauli music, tons of different kinds of music happening. Tell us, has the world woken up to the fact that India has so much to offer in terms of music alone?
So thanks for that question, first of all. So I've got some insight into this, and my opinion is a little unpopular, and my opinion is a little controversial, but I will nevertheless put it out.
We love stuff like that. Please go ahead.
So, in my opinion, I feel that, or let me put it back, let me make a more personal comment. While I was growing up, I would travel very often to the United States, and I would watch a whole lot of Bollywood musicians and Bollywood composers perform concerts across America. Sometimes I would watch them even in Europe, I would watch them in Russia, watch them in all these different countries. And I would see that these Bollywood composers and Bollywood musicians were always able to fill complete stadiums, they were able to fill complete arenas, and they would get huge crowds. But the only people who would show up for their concerts are people from the Indian diaspora. So because, and I'm not talking about movies, I'm talking purely about the music. Purely about the music because I'm a musician. Because Bollywood music, barring a few exceptions, had not actually broken cultural barriers. They were just catering to people from within India and the diaspora all over the world. Whereas when I was 19 years old, I had gone to San Francisco and I'd watched a concert of Pandit Ravi Shankar. And when I watched Pandit Ravi Shankar's concert, that was a very eye-opening experience because the demographic of the audience within the theater was very representative of the demographic of the city itself. The city had a 70% Caucasian population. It was 70% Caucasian population in the theater, 5% Asian population in the city, 5% Asian population inside the theater. And I realized that this gentleman, Pandit Ravi Shankar, is playing pure Indian classical music and traditional music. And he is able to break cultural barriers so much so that he is exposing people who would normally not be exposed to Indian culture and music. And he was getting them to pay a large ticket price to actually watch him perform. And then that is when I realized that it's the traditional musicians who are doing this. And at the same time, conversely, in India, now he made Indian music popular all over the world. Everybody knows who Pandit Ravi Shankar is, correct? Everybody knows who he was? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, everybody knows he won the Bharat Ratna?
Yes.
Everybody knows that his daughters are Anushka Shankar, Nora Jones?
Yes.
Okay, everybody knows him as being the greatest sitarist ever?
Of course.
Okay. Can anybody over here name one album of Pandit Ravi Shankar? He's made 70 albums. Can anyone over here name one album of his? Okay, you can. Can anybody name a song of his? Can anybody hum a tune of his?
Can't use Chat GPT for this.
And that is what, okay, you can. Okay, so 2 people, okay, in the whole audience. That's about it. So that shows that we ourselves are not appreciating our culture, and we're not realizing that our culture and our traditional musicians are actually making it on the global stage, like Selva Ganesh over here, brilliant musician. And he won a Grammy Award this year. Shakti won a Grammy Award. Rakesh Chaurasia won a Grammy Award. Ustad Zakir Hussain, Shankar Mahadevan, Pandit Vishwamohan Bhatt. All of these are traditional Indian musicians who are making it on the global stage. And we in India are the only ones who are not appreciating them.
Okay. I'm right here going to appreciate Mr. Selva Ganesh right away before I come to Mr. Shekhar Kapoor. You know, the question here is that it's all about showcasing that Indian music, isn't it? That, you know, your beats, the beats are universal. There is just no difference. It's the same thing because the world goes around on the same beats. Tell us about what goes on in your mind when you're showcasing the Kanjira to a global audience.
Before that, I would really appreciate Ricky, like, you know, the way he expressed it, and he's very true. It's very true. Rhythmic, like, you know, I mean, I wouldn't even say like a showcasing something because it is our tradition, right? And the gate openness where Allaraka Kanjab, I mean, if I'm a percussion player, I would put it in that way, and that perspective. Allaraka Kanjab, Sad Zakir Hussain, Zakir Bhai, they've already opened it. So it became easier for us. We don't have to do anything. We just do our best. We just give our 100%. That's it. So which really needed for right now, for any musician, for this generation, give 100% to the music. Don't ever expect anything. Like, you know, I mean, I follow the footstep of all these 3 legendary musicians who's like, and I would put it in my way, my father. I mean, actually, Ricky, he's also a Grammy winner. So, my father and John McLaughlin, John G, and Zakir Bhai, they always do that. Like, you know, whenever they started the album or any band or something or a live concert, they don't expect anything. They just work hard, correct? So they work hard. Like, you know, I mean, that's the showcase, what I wanted to really do it.
Right. Since you so much of talk about Pandit Ravi Shankar, the first ever Grammy nomination for India, this is FYI, was for Pandit Ravi Shankar's Sound of Sitar, back in 1967. We've come a long way since then. In the last 10 years alone, Indians have picked up 8 Grammys.
And he won the Lifetime Achievement Award also.
Right. So I'm going to bring this back to Mr. Shekhar Kapoor. So music clearly has taken new tones. It's not just Bollywood songs anymore. There's so much of Indian music to be showcased. We hear you are planning to do Masoom 2. That's what we understand. How many of you want to watch Masoom 2? Look at that. Everybody wants to watch Masoom 2. Big round of applause. What a film Masoom was back in the day. The man who challenged Bollywood conventions back in the day. Today, sir, Bollywood has been truly challenged. Bollywood itself is evolving. It's changing. Indian movies and the kind of Indian movies that get showcased to outside audiences, like he's talking about, if you're showcasing it in New York, it has to be representative of the city of New York. So when they watch it, when people from, Mr. Ripley's nation watch it, you know, they're watching different Indian cinema right now, isn't it?
Okay. Just one thing. Do you know where flamenco comes from? The dance flamenco? From Rajasthan. So Indian forms and Indian traditional music has traveled for centuries. And it only stopped in Spain because it couldn't cross the ocean, right? And that's why flamenco stayed there. What was your question?
Question is that, like the way you challenged Bollywood conventions back with Masoom and Mr. India.
You know, one of the things is something we need to take advantage of. The West has plateaued. The West has run out of stories. And one of your questions is, why are the Koreans doing so well? Because the East is a whole repository of stories. It's time for us to tell our stories. It's time for us to find the confidence to go out. And there's no greater repository of stories than India. I mean, there's one book that nobody's heard about called Mahabharata, right? Anybody heard about Mahabharata? No, okay. It has every story possible in the world inside that one tale of Mahabharata. So we have the stories, and the West has run out of stories. So it is time for us to go out and conquer the world with our stories. And I say conquer the world, there's a very big reason. When I was a kid, I was in university, what did I want to do? I wanted to wear jeans because they sold me jeans. I wanted to go to Harvard because they sold me Harvard. I wanted to speak American accent because they sold me the American accent. That day's gone. Those days are gone. We no longer are dominated, created by the West that had this incredible marketing machine. But they don't have any more stories. We're the ones. Now we have to go out and be very forceful. It's not just going to happen. And what is on our side is, number one, India. It's a young people's game, right? India has the largest number of teenagers anywhere in the world. Technology is a young person's game. AI is coming in, changing the world. We need to be confident now. And the world has already said, Korea has shown us. There was a time when I saw that there were two Korean stories. There was Squid Games, that was the biggest hit on Netflix, and there was this other American film about Chinese in America. I forget the name. Something about bangles or kada. Yeah. But the interesting thing about it is there was not a single white American in that film. There was only white man, one white man, and guess what that white man was doing? Yes, boss. And I thought, hang on, that's what Indians used to do in English films. Yes, boss. Life is changing, the world is changing, we have the stories, but everyone in the room here, and TV9, thank you for saying this, and thank you for putting us up here to actually come up and encourage Indian filmmakers to say, it's not just India. You have the world, you have the capacity, and technology is helping you. Everything is helping you. Do you know, when I was offered Elizabeth, I said no 3 times. And then I sat down and I said, I'm Indian. I've been asked to make a film about Elizabeth, and she conquered us. Colonization started with her, and I was a colonized person, and then I picked Kate Blanchett, her first film, Kate Blanchett, I found her, and she said, oh, I'm Australian. I was colonized. So we were a lot of colonial people that sat down and said, how do we teach the British a lesson about their own culture and make a film about their own queen?
You did. You taught them a lesson on telling their own story.
Yeah. And then I sat down and said, who am I? Because art comes through you. Right? Art cannot come from somewhere exterior. So I said, okay, I'm not British, I'm not American, I'm Asian. So we all sat down, we hatched a plan, and I called Richard Attenborough. I said, I want you to play a part in it. He said, oh, I don't have the time, they're not paying me enough. And I said, Mr. Attenborough, we allowed you to make Gandhi in India. You have to allow me to make Elizabeth, and you have to be part of it. So you got to fight back. It's not going to be easy. Colonization, you know, our country, Gandhiji, everybody, and our Prime Minister said, get out of that slavery mindset, get out of the colonial mindset. Our film industry has to get out of, hum to sirf India ke liye film banate hain. We have to get out. The world's our oyster. You worked out. All of you guys went out. I went out. The world has to follow. For years I waited for another filmmaker to come. Nahi ji, India bahut acha market hai. 1,000 crores? Hang on. There's a film in America just made $1.5 billion. What are you talking? Right? And so look at it, Bobby, about a doll. So yeah, we can do it. I'm saying this because you've given me this platform to tell people, get out there. Just get out there. Be the first people to go out and colonize the world with your stories. We were colonized by their stories. Now let's go colonize with our stories. Yes? So let's go.
Recolonize with our stories. What a message. Ricky, I'm going to come to Mr. Ripley, the talented Mr. Ripley, to talk about technology and the part that it could play. You're laughing so much because that's what you're doing with the kind of awards you're winning. You know, like, you know, when an A.R. Rahman wins a Grammy, it's again for a movie made by somebody who's technically Scottish, and he's trying to do an Indian Bollywood kind of a music for that. And the kind of music for which you won Grammy Award is usually not the Indian Asian types, right? The category in which you won. So in that sense, you're also teaching the world a lesson that Indians can now do this, that what they've been doing all this while.
I would look at it from that perspective, actually.
Oh, come on, you were just clapping a lot for what he was talking about.
No, I wouldn't look at it from that. I wouldn't look at it from that perspective. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, that we are talking about the Grammys a lot over here. But the thing is that the Grammys is the only international award for music that exists today, and that is a little bit of a problem right there because it's an American award, and so basically, why did we, as an international community, give the onus on awarding an international award to an American organization? So that is where the problem lies, you know. That so what we should be doing is that the Global South, we've got musical forms that actually predate the West. Like, for example, it's always considered that Western music is the paradigm, and all other forms of music, that is Indian, Celtic, Native American, first generation, Irish, not even that, that's also Western, but Japanese and Korean and African music is considered to be ethnic and exotic music and fringe music, you know. So that paradigm needs to change, because when you think about Western classical music, everybody think about, when you think about classical music, everybody first think about Western classical music. And Indian classical music is exotic. When you think about devotional music, it's always gospel music first, when it is the West. And then all other devotional forms of music is again exotic music. So that paradigm needs to change, because our music actually predates the Western forms of music. So I guess what needs to happen is that we need to figure out a way to award the world, you know.
Absolutely, we need to own up to that.
And set our own narrative.
We need to own up to that, as Mr. Kapoor is also talking about. Mr. Ripley, so then Mr. Kapoor also talked about artificial intelligence. I'm going to take off from that, actually. Technology is important. In fact, you are, in the thick of things, bringing a very important piece of technology like direct to mobile to India. That changes the way Indians consume their own content. That's what Ricky is talking about. How many people know which album that Mr. Pandit Ravi Shankar was nominated for? So talk to us about how technologies like direct to mobile can reshape the way people consume content. Indians consume their own Indian content, and obviously the way Indian content is consumed across the world.
Well, yeah, technology is going to have a massive impact. AI was already mentioned. Streaming globalized content in a big, big way. AI is going to be having a huge impact. Just an example from my company, we operate here in India with the tennis channel. We have the Women's Tour Association there, so if you like the WTA, please tune into Tennis Channel. And we operate in many other countries around the world. We are now taking our programming, and with AI, we are versioning it for each one of those countries at a touch of a button. Okay, that's pretty profound. You don't have to create content for each language in each country. So that's pretty significant, and that's sports-related content. Okay, I'm not talking about entertainment content, but I know all the major studios in the US are looking at versioning this way, right? Netflix does a pretty good job of dubbing, but this is going to be something entirely different. You're going to see people talking in your perfect local dialect with your mouths moving exactly as it is. It's going to be quite profound. And that's just the beginning of what AI is doing. I do think technology will benefit incumbents at first. Well-financed incumbents. And I think India, quite frankly, is an incumbent right now. You look at Hollywood, Korea, India, I do think it will benefit India in a big way. And eventually, it will also democratize content creation. At first, it will benefit the bigger, more sophisticated players, but as the technology moves down to the masses, it will democratize content creation. That's been the trend that we've seen. And just to touch on, you mentioned direct-to-mobile broadcast. That is a new technology. I'm sure not a lot of people know what it is yet. It hasn't rolled out yet.
Tell us all about it.
It is, think free dish for mobile phones. Doesn't require any data plan, doesn't require any subscriptions, allows for targeting and interactivity. So it democratizes content distribution to the phone. And it will inevitably spawn new content types, open up new avenues to content creators, and it should be coming to India soon. And in fact, it will be first in the world here in India.
Wow. So Mr. Kapoor, you wanted to say something?
I
Please
was
go
going to take up on AI because
Go ahead, sir.
I was sitting with somebody in the Singapore fintech and they say, well, what about everybody's jobs? Everybody's jobs will change. And I looked behind me and there was a cleaning lady who was cleaning, and obviously she was older and she had arthritis in her legs and she was in pain. She wanted us to leave the restaurant so she could get on with the job. And I said, okay, you think AI is all about jobs, and you also said it'll go with the big players. I don't agree with that. I'll tell you why, because here, everybody told me there'll be a big digital divide. Soon a beggar will come with a Paytm machine to you or whatever and say, hey, just have that. It was like that. The digital divide, there was no digital divide. India caught on like that. Everybody's on it. So AI will do the same thing. But let's look at that lady. I said, ask her, are you happy with the job? She'll say, no. Do you want change? She'll say, yes. I said, that's 97% of the population of the world. You 3% are sitting on the top and saying, we don't want change because you're sitting on the top. What AI is going to give is that 97% of the people will have a chance to express themselves, to find different things about themselves, to find different ways of living, to expand their consciousness. And when consciousness expands, it moves like that. And that's what AI is going to do. So now you have an organization which is a pyramidal structure. What are you going to do when the cleaning lady has exactly the same tools, the same knowledge through AI as the CEO does? Who's going to run the company? That's the existential change that is coming. Now, I'm a content filmmaker. I'm saying, I know where my competition is coming from a kid sitting in a slum somewhere saying, I can do better than this guy. And AI has given the tools to them. That's my competition. And that's the kid that millions and millions of kids in India are going to go out and make films, and they, through your technology and through streaming and everything, they have the ability to put it out to the world. We're on a roll. It's going to be an exciting world.
It's an exciting world. Selva Ganesh, where is your next competition coming from? Considering the, you have direct to mobile coming, technology coming, artificial intelligence literally, invading all of our lives. Where is the competition for Selva Ganesh coming from?
It's actually bad for musicians. No, just imagine, when I grew up, there was a cassette, right? So then it became a CD. Then it became now everything is on the phone. And now you cannot fool around. You can just say this. People say, no, you're wrong. It's there. I'll tell you who did what. So competition, do you think it was not there when the cassette player was there? It was there all over. So that's why I said you just work with your mind, with your heart. Music is more like that. So I go with my heart, what it says, then I just do it. And so there is no competition for that. I would definitely say there is no competition.
Right, so Indians should actually believe in the power of AI, in their ability to take their art to the world, isn't it?
Yeah, so again, my view on AI is very simple. A few years ago, maybe about 24, 25 years ago, you could actually create the sounds of musical instruments, which we do now very regularly. You can create the sounds of musical instruments using a computer. You can play a keyboard and you can get the sound of a violin, or the sound of a khatam, or the sound of a sitar, or the sound of a piano. You can get all of these sounds. And the sounds were of such high quality that everybody said that this is going to destroy the livelihoods of musicians, and musicians are going to no longer be required, and composers can just create the music using the computer. But that did not happen. What happened was that the musicians who were the more generic musicians, who were not creative, they're the ones who went obsolete. But the musicians who were creative, and the musicians who would give a composer more than what the composer required, were the musicians who survived. And that is why you have musicians like Selva Ganesh, who are doing extremely well because they're extremely creative in what they do. And that is why everybody wants to work with them. It's the same thing with AI. What's going to happen with AI is that the filmmakers, the ad filmmakers, the short filmmakers who need generic music, like for example, if I'm a filmmaker and I need music for a horror film and I need generic horror music, or I'm making a romantic film and I need generic romantic music which does not require too much of creativity, AI is going to be perfect for that. But for composers, for composers who need to, for filmmakers who want composers, or composers who want to create something that is absolutely unique, unprecedented, and music that is very creative, not been done before, that is where the human connection is going to come in, and that's where humans are always going to be needed. And AI will always follow because AI can only do things with precedence. So basically, AI will follow all the innovations that human beings create.
I just realized the fact that artificial intelligence begins with art. No. Isn't it, Mr. Kapoor?
You got a chance, Ricky. You and I got a chance. We all were lucky, right? We rose to the top because we got the chance and we did it. Oh, yeah. 95% of people do not get that chance. I'm talking about those 95% of people that now will get a chance because of technology to get themselves heard. Then we come to the question of what is creativity? What is creative? I mean, if you want to study AI, you should learn what AI cannot do. All right? I'll tell you what it can't do. You know, when I was a kid, I lived in Delhi. We used to go up to Mussoorie, Simla, right? All of us went there, and I used to run down. I was 14 years old, 13, 14. I used to run down the hill. As I was running down the hill, I had to already know if it's a river, because the momentum will make sure that I need to know which are the next boulders to step on. I can't make up my mind that. So step on one boulder, I already see, there. Now, AI could give me which boulder, but then I wouldn't do it. Why did I do it? I did it because there was this fundamental fear that I might fall. There was this fundamental fear that I might die. So, fear is a great driver of creativity. Fear is a great driver of human action. You're afraid. So AI can't be afraid, right? AI can't love, because if AI knew how to love, then you'd go, she loves me, 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 she loves me. Where did that go? She loves me not, she loves me not. It's that she loves me not which creates the mystery in love. And that AI cannot do. No fear, no love. It can give you the biggest love story in the world. Hey, I asked ChatGPT to give me a story on Masoom, the next generation. One day I'll tell you what the story is. It had a moral idea to it. It wasn't a story I'm making. But it's really good. But it's just read everything that's ever written and immediately 10 seconds gave me. But it can't love, it can't fear, it can't feel faith. That human quality is what gives you creativity. There. But then, hang on, 95% of people don't get the chance. How long? I mean, I could have not been offered Masoom. I would have been struggling still to make a film. Somebody said, will you make it? And Shabana said yes, and Gulzar said, they could have said no. If they said no, I wouldn't be sitting here. That's the point. AI, what that AI will do is they don't have to go to Shabana. AI will create a Shabana for them. AI will create somebody for them, right? You know which is the biggest brand in the world is made by Disney, Donald Duck. 100 years it's been going on. Now AI will make a human that will be going on for 100 years. Who owns that? A kid in Dharavi? Who owns the copyright for that? It's huge. It's an existential change. And I'm loving it. So, you know, you can see.
Right, I see Mr. Ripley nodding along. Obviously, the marketing might of Disney is another example of how Hollywood was able to push that brand across the India. But, you know, we can continue this conversation for the next 1 hour, I think. And I didn't realize the fact that the conversation on art and music and entertainment is going to be ending up as a conversation about artificial intelligence, which will take an entire day, I think. But it's been fascinating talking to you, gentlemen. Huge round of applause for Mr. Shekhar Kapoor, Ricky Cage, Christopher Ripley, and V. Selva Ganesh. We need to wrap this session up, unfortunately, because we have indeed run out of time.